Hello guys, welcome back to our anime moments. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of upcoming episode of Soul Land 2 based on novel. So let's start. How laughed sarcastically and replied, "Do I have a choice? Whatever you say is final." You're right. I admit that I don't want to die. However, will you trust me if I surrender so easily? The lady laughed coldly and said, "I can confirm that this is very simple. I'll start with understanding who you are." At this moment, an object flew towards him. He didn't move as it was flung at him, and it landed 3 meters away from him. Back, it was a pair of dark gold manacles. There was a ring of sharp teeth pointing inwards within the manacles. Those are called God-restricting manacles. When you put it on, it will restrict your soul power. We can start talking properly then. The lady said in a very relaxed manner. Hui Yuhao stood there and hesitated for a moment. He revealed a slightly hesitant look in his eyes. "If I put these manacles on, will you really not kill me?" The lady calmly replied, "I already mentioned that you have no choice. You can only believe me. Moreover, do you think you'd still be alive if I wanted to kill you? Put them on. My words are final." She was both threatening and convincing him. Her tone of voice also sounded very reassuring. Hui Yuhao stood where he was, his expression changing. That lady didn't force him any further. She only maintained her silence as she waited for his response. After a while, Hui Yuhao let out a long sigh and slowly walked towards those manacles. He was walking very slowly. As he moved, the soul tools that were locked onto him also slowly moved. The lady smiled and said, "You're clever. Just like that, walk slowly. Otherwise, I can't guarantee that my men won't accidentally discharge their soul tools." Hui Yuhao was indeed very slow. He didn't want to move too quickly. There was a look of helplessness and dejection in his eyes. Finally, he arrived in front of the manacles. He slowly bent at the waist over and moved to put the manacles on. "Just put them on directly?" Hui Yuhao asked. "Yes, both hands," the lady said very patiently. "All right, I concede defeat." Hui Yuhao sighed once more and used the God-restricting manacles to cuff himself. All the soul tools were still locked onto him. However, Hui Yuhao's spiritual power was very sensitive. When he moved to put on the manacles, he immediately sensed that all the soul engineers relaxed slightly. They didn't make a mistake. This was a normal human reaction. Any human would react like that under such a circumstance, especially in this icy place. However, Hui Yuhao made his move just as they reacted. The God-restricting manacles were getting closer and closer to his wrist. To a normal person, this happened in just an instant. However, Hui Yuhao was able to delay this instant through his spiritual power. The manacles were less than an inch away from his left wrist. At this moment, Hui Yuhao could sense the power of the manacles. He immediately made his judgment once he was cuffed. One of the cuffs was already enough to restrict him completely. He didn't need to be cuffed on both hands. At the last inch, Hui Yuhao suddenly moved. Lights flashed without any warning. Hui Yuhao instantly switched positions. An old lady who was around 70 was standing where he was now. She appeared very confused. This sudden change caused all of the soul engineers to be shocked. This was because they had clearly locked onto Hui Yuhao earlier. However, he had disappeared now and caused their lock-on to vanish too. Many of the soul engineers suddenly fired, as they couldn't control themselves. However, their attacks were blocked by a layer of light that rose from the old lady's body. "This is not good, Commander," the old lady shouted. The surrounding soul engineers were all in a state of panic. This was because they could recognize that the old lady was the Vice-Legion Commander of the Phoenix Soul Engineer Legion. She was a Class 9 Soul Engineer. The original strict formation changed. Following this, an anxious voice sounded. "I'm fine. Catch him. He's fake." The old lady revealed a slight smile on her face. Had he finally appeared? Lights flashed again before the old lady disappeared. was replaced by a tall, big lady who was around 40 years old. Yes, that old lady earlier was still Hui Yuhao. He had used his spiritual interference to isolate all Locoenes before using his imitation to change his appearance. He had no choice. He still hadn't managed to trace the original source of the voice using his spiritual power earlier. However, he still managed to discover the Class 9 soul engineer who could threaten him the most using his spiritual protection. How could he stop the enemy from attacking him after discovering him? Choosing to adopt the appearance of this soul engineer was evidently the wisest choice. This was why Hui Yuhao did this. He only had one motive: draw the Legion commander out from her hiding place. It was a fact that even the most intelligent hunters could make mistakes when panicking. The reason why the lady's voice couldn't be traced by Hui Yuhao earlier was because her emotions didn't change at all. Using a displacement soul tool, she had managed to conceal herself. Right now, her emotions changed as she panicked. Naturally, Hui Yuhao's spiritual detection managed to capture her detailed position. Following this, he used his Xuanwu displacement. Every time Hui Yuhao used his spiritual inscription, he would return to find Xu Sanxia to re-inscribe it once again. He promoted it from the mysterious underworld displacement to the Xuanwu displacement. It was a life-saving change. The Xuanwu displacement had saved Hui Yuhao on many critical occasions. This was why he always re-inscribed this soul skill. Whether it was control or attack, he had great self-confidence. While his surveillance was good, his greatest shortcoming was in terms of how well he could escape. The Xuanwu displacement was undoubtedly the best soul skill to use to escape. The Xuanwu displacement could teleport Hui Yuhao a greater distance than his instant teleportation. Furthermore, there would be a substitute in his place, which made it even more confusing. When used in tandem with his instant teleportation, it could bring about unexpected results. Right now, Hui Yuhao made a life-saving displacement. Through his spiritual detection earlier, he was clearly aware that the enemy's words were right. He was heavily trapped. It was impossible for him to charge out. A bunch of soul engineers had surrounded him, and linked defensive soul tools were ready to be fired. Even an ultimate Doluo might not be able to force his way out. It was only by killing and reducing the number of people that he might possibly stand a chance of escape. Hui Yuhao's abilities were still a far ways off from those of an ultimate Doluo. This was why he only had one chance. He had to capture the leader of the enemy and use her as a hostage to stand a chance of survival. Force him to surrender? In his dictionary, there was no such word. As Hui Yuhao heard exclamations, he had already unleashed his Xuanwu displacement. Suddenly, he appeared behind a lady wearing red armor. He was trying to displace this person's bodyguard. From the voice of this person and her attire, he had already determined earlier that she was the marshal who had been speaking earlier. Whether she was the true marshal or not, she had to hold an important position in the Phoenix Soul Engineer Legion. After displacing himself behind this lady, he continued to maintain the appearance of the old lady. All the Soul Engineers around were astonished, but they didn't do anything immediately. Hui Yuhao wasn't bothered at all. He had already planned his move. His eye of destiny had already opened, and his soul core was already revolving extremely quickly. He didn't conserve his spiritual power as he unleashed it. Immediately, his spiritual blast was unleashed. A strong spiritual blast was compressed within 100 square meter region. The soul engineers around were all 7-ringed and Class 7 soul engineers. There were even stronger soul engineers that had locked onto Hui Yuhao from different directions earlier. However, these Class 7 soul engineers were not very strong against Hui Yuhao's spiritual blast. This was not to even mention that Hui Yuhao had enhanced his spiritual blast using his Eye of Destiny. At this moment, there was no room for error. Hui Yuhao attacked immediately. Even though his spiritual blast was strong, the red-armored lady in front of him had actually unleashed a spiritual barrier around her. It managed to resist his blast as they collided. I'm right, she must be the marshal. How could she not be the marshal, given that she's equipped with such an expensive defensive soul tool? However, Hui Yuhao was surprised that her abilities weren't that strong. She was at most a soul sage. He was very confident about this. After understanding the mysteries of soul cores, he had developed a deep understanding of the soul power undulations of title Dolor. Even if she was a title Dolor, he still had to take action. This was his only chance. He instantly unleashed his spiritual shock. A beam of rose gold light that seemed to come from prehistoric times flashed before disappearing. Hu Yihao had already formed his soul core. Along with the enhancement of his Eye of Destiny, he unleashed this strike with all his strength. In terms of power, it had to be the strongest one that he had ever unleashed. It was comparable to the attack of a title Dolor. The rose gold light flashed, and the lady in front of him groaned. A necklace on her neck snapped and fell off, and the spiritual barrier covering her was destroyed. She even fell forward. Hu Yihao didn't care. He lifted his hand and grabbed hold of her neck. He used his left hand and unleashed his Ice Empress pincer instantly. At the same time, he stomped his right foot on the ground, and his star anaconda was unleashed. As his attacks were all too closely linked, he didn't care about using any auxiliary type soul skills. Even so, his star anaconda thrust still covered an area that spanned more than 200 meters in diameter. This was an icy place in the extreme north, the coldest region in the entire world. Here, all ice-type abilities were greatly enhanced. Hu Yihao's martial soul was ultimate ice. It was evident that his abilities would be greatly strengthened here. Huge ice spikes that were as long as 3 meters and as thick as water buckets shot out in all directions. These terrifying spikes tore some of the tents apart. The soul engineers were sent flying into the sky even though they were protected by protective soul barriers. Some of the soul engineers who were slightly weaker were even stabbed through by the spikes. Hu Yihao was suddenly free of any soul engineers around him. Hu Yihao's left hand was about to grab hold of the lady's neck, but a layer of golden light suddenly appeared on the lady's body. Invincible barrier. At this moment, Hu Yihao really wanted to curse. The reason why he continued using his spiritual type attack on the enemy was because he hoped to make his enemy lose her awareness, so that she wouldn't be able to use her invincible barrier or any types of abilities similar to that of an invincible barrier. An invincible barrier could last for more than 10 seconds. How would he stand a chance then? However, Hu Yihao still had to continue on even though the invincible barrier had been unleashed. He didn't continue attacking the lady, which would be a waste of his soul power. His eyes flashed, and he switched to his spirit eyes. A white halo quickly spread out from his body. Hu Yihao unleashed his mass enfeeblement under the effect of his soul core. His mass enfeeblement spread in all directions, and large patches of red light started to appear in bursts. This was a fire-type attack, which the Phoenix Soul Engineer Legion was most adept at. Hu Yihao squinted his eyes. He clenched his left hand into a fist, and loud booms started to resonate. Boom, boom, the booms echoed, and the explosions were centered around Hu Yihao and the lady. They were wildly spreading outward. The fiery red lights were immediately devoured. At this instant, it seemed as if a terrifying and brutal snowstorm, terrifying explosive force raged. Ice flakes were dancing in the sky, and the intense explosive force was so strong that even a titled Dolor would have to stay away. At the same time, Hu Yihao's eyes turned deep blue, and a figure silently surfaced behind him. It was the Snow Empress, who had already recovered her origin and regained her memories. The Snow Empress didn't open her mouth. She drifted silently behind Hu Yihao. She reached out her hand and pointed to the sky with one hand, and to the ground with her other hand. The intense explosions weren't even able to get close to Hu Yihao and the Snow Empress. The ice flakes in the sky instantly turned into a snowstorm under the Snow Empress' control. Hu Yihao switched back to his Ice Jade Empress Scorpion. His 7 soul rings started to shine brightly. Snowy dance of ultimate ice. With the support of the Snow Empress, the strongest version of the Snowy dance of ultimate ice was unleashed. At the same time, the star and its mysterious ice grass surfaced from Hu Yihao's shoulder. New halos quickly spread. This was the strengthening effect of his ultimate ice. The terrifying snowy dance of ultimate ice instantly raged, and caused everything within a region spanning several thousands of meters to be trapped within it. Almost the entire military base was caught in this region. Although the soul engineers were strong, they could only maintain their linked defensive soul formation. It was impossible to see what was going on in the domain. Everyone senses the soul tools that were locked onto Hu Yuhao and all surveillance soul tools lost their effect in the snowy dance of ultimate ice. At this moment, the lady seemed to have regained her awareness. She suddenly turned around and looked at Hu Yuhao, who was still imitating the old lady's appearance. When she saw Hu Yuhao's 7 soul rings, she was completely shocked. What soul ring colors are these? Out of his 7 soul rings, 4 don't even belong to the normal scheme of colors, and the other 3 are 100,000-year soul rings. Is he really a soul master? She was in a daze as she looked at Hu Yuhao. Hu Yuhao was about to unleash his full strength at her under the cover of his snowy dance of ultimate ice, but he also went into a daze after seeing her. Suddenly, he turned completely amazed. Something seems to be stuck in Hu Yuhao's throat. His voice changed slightly at this instant. He didn't expect that this cunning marshal was actually Ju Zi, whom he had not seen in a long time. In her military outfit, Ju Zi appeared very suave. Her symbolic crystal-clear skin was still as smooth and clear as ever. Her beautiful big eyes were locked onto Hu Yuhao in disbelief. Both of them were just staring at each other just like this. Their expressions were around the same, they were both in complete disbelief. Who are you? Ju Zi was astonished when she heard the other party calling her name. A light projection flashed, and Hu Yuhao removed his imitation. He looked at Ju Zi and laughed bitterly. Ju Zi subconsciously lifted her hand to cover her lips. Hu Yuhao hadn't expected the enemy to be here, and she also hadn't expected that the person who had caused such heavy losses to the Phoenix Soul Engineer Legion and brought her such a headache today was actually Hu Yuhao. Why is it you? How could it be you? Ju Zi's voice was filled with shock and astonishment. Hu Yuhao laughed bitterly and said, "It's me." At this moment, the Snow Empress' cold voice sounded, "Quickly, take action. This domain is unable to handle the pressure much longer. They'll soon make their way here." Hu Yuhao's body shook, and there was a complicated look on his face as he looked at Ju Zi, as her invincible barrier started to become dimmer and dimmer. Ju Zi also looked at Hu Yuhao with a complicated expression. She sighed, "Damn it." She didn't activate her second invincible barrier. She turned around and hugged Hu Yuhao. Hu Yuhao subconsciously grabbed onto her waist. At this instant, he felt extremely emotional. He did have some feelings for Ju Zi. Back then, his relationship with Wang Donga wasn't established yet. In his eyes, Wang Donga was still Wang Dong, and a guy. Ju Zi was probably the first female that he had developed some feelings for. It was just that their identities, backgrounds, and a series of changes that happened after, such as Wang Dong's appearance, caused them to slowly drift apart. Their next few meetings were also very rushed. Hu Yuhao could still clearly remember that Ju Zi took the risk to send him a letter during the Continental Advanced Soul Master Academy Soul Dueling Tournament in Radiant City. At this moment, even though it was Ju Zi who was in his embrace, he felt his heart throbbing. "Ju Zi, you." Ju Zi suppressed her inner emotions and said, "I am the marshal of this army. If you hold me as your hostage, they won't dare to do anything to you." Hu Yuhao naturally knew that this wasn't the time for them to catch up on old times. As he placed one hand over her waist, he gently pressed his other hand on her neck. He looked into the sky and shouted, "Stop! Your marshal is in my hands." Seeing that Hu Yuhao had gotten his wish, the Snow Empress glared at him with a weird look on her face. After this, she turned into a beam of flowing light and re-entered his body, and the snowy dance of ultimate ice slowly disappeared. The Phoenix Soul Engineer Legion immediately ceased fire as Hu Yuhao shouted. Following the disappearance of the snowy dance of ultimate ice, red figures started to slowly surface. Hu Yuhao looked very cold and indifferent as he stood there. Right now, he had yet to revert to his original appearance. He continued to use his imitation to mimic the look of that old lady. He stood behind Ju Zi, and one of his hands was on her waist, while the other was in a stranglehold around her neck. Killer aura spread. Given his spiritual power, it was easy for him to imitate a strong killing aura. After the snowy dance of ultimate ice disappeared, Wu Yuhao finally saw that the sky had been completely engulfed with a red barrier. Every member of the Phoenix Soul Engineer Legion had a diamond-shaped soul tool on their chests that shone brightly with red light. Evidently, those were their linked defensive soul tools. It was a linked defense that was unleashed by several hundred advanced tier soul engineers. He couldn't possibly breach such a defense. This was why his earlier strategy was correct, which was to take the marshal hostage. It was the only way out. It was just that Zhu Zi was the marshal. However, no matter what, this act had to continue. Zhu Zi also seemed very willing to play along. Everyone watched Wu Yuhao intently. A fiery red figure rapidly made it to the front and watched him coldly. Wasn't she the Class 9 Soul Engineer that Wu Yuhao had imitated? The two of them stared at each other. The scene was very weird. Wu Yuhao was completely surrounded by the Phoenix Soul Engineer Legion. All types of advanced tier cannons were aimed at him. He started to develop numbness and itching as a multitude of soul tools locked onto him. Once an order was given, Wu Yuhao would be instantly torn to pieces when so many powerful soul tools fired at him. However, Wu Yuhao wasn't anxious at all. He even appeared extremely calm. Let go of our Legion commander. The old lady on the opposite side said coldly. This old lady was the original Legion commander of the Phoenix Soul Engineer Legion. Ever since Zhu Zi came, she was demoted to the position of Vice Legion commander. Her abilities were even greater than Wang Yihan's, and she was one of the oldest Class 9 Soul Engineers in the Sun Moon Empire. She was a rank 94 title Dolor, known as the Fire Phoenix Dolor. It was a pity that her martial soul wasn't a Fire Phoenix, but a Fire Phoenix sword instead. The Fire Phoenix Dolor was once a very notable name in the Sun Moon Empire. She was as reputable as the Star Sky Dolor. When Zhu Zi first took charge of the Phoenix Soul Engineer Legion, this Fire Phoenix Dolor wasn't very convinced. How could she possibly submit to such a young lady? However, Zhu Zi was the Empress, and Xu Qianran even pleaded for her to continue to remain in the Fire Phoenix Soul Engineer Legion. She would be treated the same, and she was even given greater benefits. Apart from her title, she would continue to command the Fire Phoenix Soul Engineer Legion. She was even told that Zhu Zi was the commander in name only. This was why she remained. However, as time passed, Zhu Zi led the Legion to countless successes in this war. She commanded the entire army and managed to overwhelm both the Star Luo and Heavenly Soul Empires. The Fire Phoenix Dolor was slowly convinced by her. She was now fully committed to aiding Zhu Zi in managing this Soul Engineer Legion. Apart from admiration for Zhu Zi, she was also starting to like her now. Zhu Zi also called her Granny Normal. For the unmarried Fire Phoenix Dolor, it was her desire to have such a granddaughter. She imparted everything she knew about soul tools to her. This was why she shared a very complicated relationship with Zhu Zi. She was her subordinate, kin and teacher. Seeing that Zhu Zi had been captured, she was very anxious, even though she looked very calm. She didn't suspect Zhu Zi at all. After all, they kept thinking that their target was a title Dolor before they had attacked. Furthermore, they believed that it was likely to be a transcendent Dolor. Otherwise, they wouldn't set such a huge trap. While Zhu Zi had an invincible barrier on her body, it still had a limit. Against a true transcendent Dolor, it couldn't possibly completely resist a serious attack. Stay away. Otherwise, she'll perish with me. Wu Yuhao sounded very forceful. He intentionally changed his voice to sound hoarse and old. It was difficult to tell his age or even his gender from his voice. Let go of her. The Fire Phoenix Dolor screamed furiously before taking a step forward. A strong beam of fiery red light subtly surfaced behind her. In fact, even in the Sun Moon Empire, someone who could become a strong soul engineer would also naturally have a pretty strong martial soul. The Fire Phoenix Dolor was a good example of that. Wu Yuhao laughed coldly. If you want her to die, make a move. Otherwise, move away. As he spoke, he pressed his hand harder on Zhu Zi's throat. It was as if he was gripping her throat tightly. Juzi played along with him and groaned in pain as she revealed a painful look on her face. Stop it. The Fire Phoenix Dodo was very anxious. She was almost unable to maintain her calm exterior. Her eyes flashed. She had gone to so much trouble to set up such a trap to capture Hu Yuhao, but it eventually led to her Legion commander being taken as a hostage. This person is simply too strong. Not only can he conceal himself and imitate someone else's appearance, but he also possesses great ice-type abilities. Don't tell me he has two martial souls? Or does he have a strong soul tool with him? The Fire Phoenix Dodo couldn't tell right now, but she clearly knew that she couldn't let him go. If she wanted to capture him again, it would be extremely difficult. However, if she didn't let him go, Juzi would be in danger. Juzi wasn't only the marshal of 3 armies, she was also the empress. If her safety was endangered, no one could possibly handle the responsibility. Hu Yuhao couldn't care about what the Fire Phoenix Dodo thought. He strangled Juzi as he slowly moved forward. He wasn't very quick, but his spiritual power started to spread quickly. When he only had 2 rings, he was able to scare a bunch of soul beasts by imitating the order of the Ice Empress. After all these years, his abilities in imitation were unparalleled. He seemed to have assimilated with his surroundings as he unleashed a terrifying soul beast aura. The pressing aura that belonged to a 100,000-year soul beast immediately caused all the 7-ringed soul engineers to turn pale. Some of them almost fired the soul tools in their hands. Hu Yuhao took one step at a time as he walked towards the Fire Phoenix Dodo. Juzi was completely in his arms. No one would doubt that a titled Dodo had countless ways to kill a person. The Fire Phoenix Dodo gritted her teeth and roared, "Stand back! Let him leave." The pathway was slowly opened. The Fire Phoenix Dodo asked, "What will make you let go of our Legion commander?" Although everyone from the Legion had already made way, their linked defensive barrier hadn't moved yet. The Fire Phoenix Dodo was very experienced. She instructed everyone to make way to reduce Hu Yuhao's killing intent, so that she would be able to negotiate with him afterwards. Hu Yuhao calmly said, "You don't have the right to negotiate with me. After I leave, I'll definitely let go of her." The Fire Phoenix Dodo didn't budge. "Swear on your martial soul before I'll believe you. Otherwise, I'd rather perish together if you hurt our Legion commander after leaving." Hu Yuhao snorted coldly and said, "All right, I swear on my martial soul that I'll let go of this hostage after I leave. Otherwise, my martial soul will be crushed and never be restored. Is this fine?" How would he ever hurt Juzi? The Fire Phoenix Dodo had suggested that he should swear, and so he went along with her. Seeing that he agreed so readily, the Fire Phoenix Dodo furrowed her brow. After hesitating for a brief moment, she eventually gestured and instructed her subordinates to remove their linked defense. Hu Yuhao slowly left with Juzi. He still remained very wary at this moment. There were so many soul engineers here. Perhaps the enemy had some kind of special soul tool. He unleashed his spiritual interference domain and caused both his and Juzi's fingers to become blurry. This also caused all the soul tools to be unable to lock onto him anymore. Juzi's skin was as smooth as ever. Even though he was only touching her neck now, he could still feel how soft and smooth it was. Juzi didn't make any noise apart from the earlier groan. To those from the Fire Phoenix Soul Engineer Legion, she had been completely suppressed and wasn't able to speak at all. Finally, Hu Yuhao broke free from the encirclement. He turned around and faced the Fire Phoenix Dodo, who was following him. He slowly stepped back. Under the effect of his imitation, he slowly melted into the darkness. "You are also very strong. I hope you stay true to your words. Otherwise, your vow will turn into a curse." The Fire Phoenix Dodo said coldly. For a titled Dodo like her, she fully believed in destiny. A vow couldn't be made easily, especially one that was on one's martial soul. This was why a vow was usually the most serious and official form of transaction between many titled Dodo when they negotiated with one another. With Hu Yuhao's vow, she believed that he would dare to renege on it. Never would she have guessed that Hu Yuhao wasn't a titled Dodo. Were you how heaved a sigh of relief after melting into the darkness?
我要报仇。
Although they were stuck in ice and snow, the back of his shirt was completely drenched with
是拦
sweat.
不了我的。
It was simply too dangerous.
我也
If the Legion commander of the Fire Phoenix Soul Engineer Legion hadn't been Juzi, he wasn't sure if he could have even made it out alive. He could clearly see that Juzi was ready to unleash
岂
her
能容你
second
这小小的
invincible
虎皮撒
barrier.
野？
Under that circumstance, he could
他们
only
毁了我
attack
的一
with all
切。
his might.
他的体
He
现
had to either
尽
stop
不
her
在泰
from
坦水
unleashing
无人
her
之下。
invincible barrier,
我要
or
报
crush
仇。
the invincible barrier and take her as a hostage before his
但你
snowy
离开日
dance
月
of
帝国
ultimate
是拦
has
不了
vanished.
我的。
我可
As
以
for
带
whether he would succeed, Wu Yuhao didn't have any confidence at all. Today's situation wasn't any less dangerous than the time when he was surrounded by two evil soul masters and the evil tyrant soul engineer legion in
岂能容
Sunrise
你这
City.
小小的虎皮撒野？
When Chiao was the one who had saved him then.
他们毁了我的一
This
切。
time, it was Juzi.
他的体现尽不在
Fortunately,
泰坦水无人之
Juzi's
下。
life wouldn't be in
我要
danger.
报仇。
He subconsciously let go of Juzi's
带
neck.
你离开日月帝国。
He only held her waist as he fled far
Okay.
away. Juzi didn't utter a sound at all. She let Hu Yuhao bring her wherever he wanted. Right now, how could she not be emotional? It was only after flying tens of kilometers away and using his spiritual protection to scan his surroundings to ensure no one was following them that Hu Yuhao
他
landed.
的体现
He
尽不在
found
泰
a
坦水
place
无
to
人之
stop.
下。
我要
I'm
报仇。
sorry, Juzi.
你走，
Hu Yuhao let go of his arms around Juzi's waist and gently sighed.
我可以带你。
Juzi turned around suddenly and forcefully embraced him. He was completely in her embrace. Hu Yuhao was in a daze. The surrounding winds were very chilly.
岂能
He
容你
had
这小
unleashed
小的
his
虎
soul
皮撒
power to
野？
protect himself from Juzi.
他
He
们毁了
wasn't
我的一
afraid of the
切。
cold, but she
他的
was.
体现尽
At
不在
this
泰坦
moment,
水无人
he
之
had
下。
already forgotten that
我要报
Juzi
仇。
was a soul sage.
你走，
Juzi stuck
带
close
你
to
离
him.
开日月帝国。
是拦不了
Although they
我
were。 separated by a layer
Okay.
of armor, Hu Yuhao could still the passion from Juzi. You're still alive. That's great. Did you know? I thought you were dead all along. Juzi muttered.
岂能容你这小小
Hu
的虎
Yuhao
皮撒
chortled
野？
and replied, I won't die so easily.
他们毁了我的一
Don't worry,
切。
I'm doing
他
well.
的体现尽不在
Juzi
泰坦
laughed
水无
gently
人
and
之下。
softly said,
我要报仇。
I've not had such blissful feelings for
带
a
你
long
离开日
time.
月帝国。
是拦不了
You're
我。
still alive.
我可以带你。
Great, I feel very blissful. Hu Yuhao was in a daze. He hadn't expected her to say something like this to him. He didn't know how to respond. Juzi gently lifted her hands and relaxed her grip on his waist. She took a step back and widened the gap between them.
他的体现
How have
尽
you
不在
been?
泰坦水无人之下。
Juzi lifted her head, and there was a concerned look on her face.
带你离开
Part
日
1
月帝
end
国。
here.
是拦不了我的。
我可以带你。
我与